I'm Gary Luton, Director of Treaty Law at Global Affairs Canada. Well, as a lot of people are aware, at this particular time, it's the final peace agreement that imposed the terms of the peace on Germany following World War I. They're called the Big Four. There were a number of players at the table, but in the end it was the Big Four, which included David Lloyd George from Great Britain, Georges Clemenceau from France, of course Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, and the Prime Minister of Italy, Vittorio Orlando. We did. We sent a delegation of four political players, first being, of course, Robert Borden, the Prime Minister, his Minister of Trade and Commerce, George Foster, Arthur Sifton, Minister of Commerce, and then there was George Doherty, who was the Minister of Justice. Also accompanying the delegation was Loring Christie, who was the first legal advisor of the then Department of External Affairs. Well, the war where Canada suffered greatly in terms of blood and treasure, as they say, was a time to reset imperial relations. There'd been a number of imperial conferences going on during the war that Canada was present at. And when Borden came to power, he was seeking greater autonomy for Canada, particularly in terms of foreign relations. In terms of who signed it for Canada, although the delegation comprised of four political officials, Prime Minister Borden returned to Canada because of the Winnipeg General Strike, and George Foster's wife fell ill and he returned to Canada as well. So it was Arthur Sifton and Charles Doherty who signed on behalf of Canada. Those who signed were given a copy. The signature was a bit unique in that Great Britain signed on behalf of the Empire and the Dominions signed below. So what you see here is a certified copy that would have gone to other signatories of the agreement. Well, I'm not a historian. The treaty was put into safekeeping when the Germans invaded France. There's two stories out there, one that it was stolen and one that it was destroyed. So I'll leave that for the historians to sort out. We have it right here. It's kept in the treaty vault at Global Affairs. We have a treaty custodian, and all of Canada's treaties, of which we have several thousand, are kept for safekeeping in what we call the treaty vault. Well, again, I'm not a historian, but I think most historians agree that the harsh peace terms were at least a contributing factor to the Second World War.
What kind of harsh terms?
Well, there was loss of land, reparations, and those were the main factors. Germany went bankrupt at one point in the 20s, and arguably it led the way to disenchantment and a renunciation of the treaty by Hitler.
We regard the agreement signed last night and the Anglo-German naval agreement as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
Well, there certainly is for Canada. The fact that Canada signed independently of Great Britain was a step that led to Canada's autonomy on foreign relations. It took about another decade. It was in the 20s before Canada signed treaties in its own right. And treaties are a mark of nationhood and statehood. So it was a step on the road to Canadian autonomy and later Canadian sovereignty.